me?
Now.
Well, it's Ted again. I can hear you, can't see a thing.
Okay.
I can hear you when you face out. I can't hear you when you face in.
Okay. How about this? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
I think we're okay. This new technology has certainly changed the feeling of a funeral. Adonai, who may abide in your house? Who may dwell in your holy mountain? Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them, or bring shame upon them, who scorn the lawless but honor those who revere God, who give their word and come what may, do not retract, who do not exploit others, who do not take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai ro'i lo echsar. Binot desha yarbitzeni al mei menuchot yinach aleni. Nafshi yeshovev. Yancheni b'ma'aglei tzedek l'ma'an shemo. Gam ki elech b'gates al mavet. Lo irara yata imadi. Shivtecha umishantecha. Hema yenachamuni. Ta'arok lefanai shulchan neged sorarai. Ishanta b'shemen roshi, kosi rivaya, achto v'chesed yerdefuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti b'veit Adonai la'orech yamin. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai Natan va'Adonai Lakach, Yehishem Adonai Mevarach. God has given, God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with the grief in the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us. Yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and that there is strength in faith. With Job, we say, Adonai Natan, God, you have given. You gave us a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in her life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai Lakach, God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust, before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and love. As we now say, Yehishem Adonai Mevarach, blessed be the name of God, now and forever. Every year at the Seder table, Judy read the following excerpt from Anne Frank. That's the difficulty in these times. Ideals, dreams, and cherished hopes rise within us, only to meet the horrible truth and be shattered. It's really a wonder that I haven't dropped all my ideals, because they seem so absurd and impossible to carry out. Yet I keep them, because in spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. I simply can't build up my hopes on a foundation consisting of confusion, misery, and death. I see the world gradually being turned into a wilderness. I hear the ever-approaching thunder, which will destroy us too. I can feel the suffering of millions. And yet, if I look up into the heavens, I think it will come out all right, that this cruelty too will end, and that peace and tranquility will return again. In the meantime, I must uphold my ideals, for perhaps the time will come when I shall be able to carry them out. When I spoke with Judy's family yesterday, it was suggested that she will always be associated with the Seder plate. For every year, their mom would add to the Seder plate another item, another commentary, to acknowledge the suffering and hardship of others. Whether it was potatoes, oranges, or coffee beans, Judy always showed concern for those who were oppressed. I might also suggest that Judy authored her own Haggadah, her own telling of who she was and what she believed in. Sometimes, of course, that Haggadah came in the form of news clippings, but I think more than that, each chapter of her life tells a different story. We know that she was a fast reader, so this Seder will not be very long, but we do know that it will include lots of opportunities for reading, the equivalent probably of 2 newspapers a day. She would certainly be asking to help others because she did so every day of her life, including up until the very end, as she was sort of, I believe you called her the leader of even in her nursing facility. She had this infectious love of learning. I think that it would include a lot of Hebrew, because the Hebrew in her Haggadah would be words that she understood, because certainly she understood her flashcards. She always came early for classes to ask a question if there was one that was sticking her up that she couldn't always get, just to make sure she got it right. It would be filled with beautiful pictures, pictures of her pottery, pictures of her beautiful necklaces, all examples of her handiwork, like Bezalel, who worked in the tabernacle. She too will add the pictures to that Haggadah. She would leave it open. She would leave it open because there was always more of a story to tell. It would be an opportunity to make room for more, as she did with most things. Judy would make sure that there was music in it, that she could play the guitar. Perhaps the kids would be doing their dishes at that point for an after Seder song. She would, of course, have written about the history of her people. And I think that the years of wandering in the desert might better be described by her children from their own experiences having gone west with their family, or their own tale of going into the promised land through a very circuitous route, and a route that was one that sometimes meant that they would run out of gas and go out on bus seats and wood benches and even a loft. But they made their way circuitously to the promised land. There were always memories of good food. That's not just the Haggadah, but this is the Seder, because every year this was Judy's thing. And I know she talked about it for weeks before the Seder ever happened, trying to figure out just the right foods to make sure that everyone's dietary needs were met, and that it was the perfect setting for the Seder that she had dreamed of. Judy was adventurous. In her Haggadah, there'd be stories of how people celebrated Passover in other countries, perhaps maybe the Netherlands and London, with her own experiences, and even perhaps in Oakwood. It would be generous, it would be thoughtful and straightforward, just like her, and filled with intelligent bits of information, just enough for people to take what they needed, and perhaps the next year come to find them and find that they are meaningful, the ones that were left behind the year before. It's fitting to me that she'll also have her humble beginnings with the Haggadah being a work of paper. It seems like her marriage began with a sermon. And so it was with her husband that they met, the passing forward of a sermon that the rabbi had forgotten that had been left in a prayer book. And so when I imagine where we might keep this Haggadah, I can picture it in all sorts of places, including books. One of the things about Judy was that she was always making important points and making them in ways that were not in any way hurtful or implying that she had any desire to be confrontational. She simply wanted to bring forward her truth. She wanted to help to make things meaningful. And she always did so by speaking out for those who were oppressed. I spoke with Judy Heller, who is also a fellow student and teacher of our Hebrew. Judy wanted to share that, like her mother, Judy had a gritty determination to do what was necessary and to deal with what had to be dealt with. And she really kept showing up to Hebrew as long as she possibly could, although we all really enjoyed just spending time together. But her effort and her interest in learning never died. I know that we will miss her humor and her straightforward manner and all of the joy that she brought, even if it was trying to tell a joke that turned out to be more of a story, which is why the idea of a Haggadah seems so pertinent, because it's all a telling. We might read into it the stories that are jokes, but we can also read into it those moments of education, those moments of love, and the passing down of the generations, as I know that she was very attached to her family and she loved her grandchildren. For more than 82 years, Judy had been among the upright and just in this world. And now we pray for her that she may continue to rest among the just and the upright forever. She lived her life with grace and honor, touching the hearts of those who were lucky to have loved her. Hers was truly a love that was a gift from God. With selfless acts of courage, she helped to remind those close to her that all are created in the image of the divine. With her, we too found the courage to live our lives to their fullest. And now we pray for Judy that her rest and eternal slumber be one of peace. Obviously, words are never sufficient, never enough to this effort. But now it is time that we let her go to the safety of God's eternal embrace. May her memory be a source of blessing among us. As for now, a miracle is over. A unique and precious human being is no more to our sight. But a new miracle begins. Our tradition calls it shalom, peace. May her eternal soul ascend to heaven and rest in peace forevermore. As we say, Amen. At this time, I invite you to take just a moment to reflect on all of the blessings that Judy's life brought to you. Continue with the words of El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochem Bamromi, Hamitzay Minuchana Kona Tachat Kanfe Hashechina. And Hiroshim Tuharim Zohar Harakia Mazkirim. Et Nishmat Judy Hecht Shehalchala Olama. Ma'al Harachamim Yastireha Beseter Knafav Olamim. Vaitzor Vitzor HaChaim Et Nishmata. Adonai Hu Nachalata. V'tanuach Bashalom Al Mishkava. Nomar Amen. God of abundant mercy, God Most High, may the soul of our loved one who has gone into eternity find the gift of perfect peace in your embrace, together with the holy and pure whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold her close to you forever, so that her soul may be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May she find a home with you, and may she rest in peace. And let us say together, Amen. This time, go ahead and lower the coffin. The dust returns to the earth as it was. The spirit returns to God who gave it. It is only the house of the spirit which we have laid within the earth. The spirit itself cannot die. And now we recite the mourner's cottage. May the love and eternal connection of our souls give us strength as we recite these words hallowed by time, sanctifying the name of God and honoring Judy's memory through these words. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma, Difra, Pirte, Yamlich, Malchute, Behayechon Biomechon, Uchaye Gapol Beit Israel, Bahagala Ubizman Kariv Vimru Amen. Yehe Shme Rabba Mevarach Le'alam Lomeo Maya. Yibarach V'Yishabach V'Yipa'ar V'Yitramam V'Yitnaseh. V'Yitadar V'Yitaleh V'Yitalal Shemei D'Kudsha B'Richu. Ve'Ela Mikol Birchata V'Shirata. Shishbechata V'Nechamata. Da'amiron V'Alman V'Imru Amen. Yehe Shlomo Rabba Shemaya. V'Chayim Aleinu Ve'Akol Yisrael. V'Imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Romav. Tuya Aseh Shalom. Aleinu Ve'Akol Yisrael. V'Imru Amen. Amikoma Tavoba Shalom. May Judy come to her eternal home in peace. In just a moment, we will participate in a ritual that is seen as truly one that is selfless, because it is one that we do on behalf of our loved ones. It is a tradition to put earth into the grave, because it is a righteous act that we do without any hope of reward. With this act, we take on the responsibility of caring for our loved one until the very end, because our loved ones deserve to be buried by kind hands, knowing hands, sorrowful hands. You are invited to participate in this mitzvah. It is a painful act, but it is one born of love and compassion for those who have meant so much to us. At this time, I'd like to extend the opportunity first to Judy's immediate family, and then we'll all have an opportunity afterwards. Gloves, I do have hand sanitizer as well. You okay? Like I do. beautiful thing about thinking of Judy's life in regards to Haggadah is that we know that each year we return to repeat those words and to remember them. They never are ones that we put down on the shelf, but they're ones that we bring back. And every year when we sit down for a Seder, we can continue to add to that story, just as she did with her memorials on the Seder plate. We can choose how we want to remember her as well when we sit down for those moments. But Judy's life has always been a blessing. And I know that we will all miss her generous soul very dearly. May she always be a part of us. And may we be comforted among all who mourn. This concludes our service. For those of you who are in the waiting room, this has been recorded so that it will be available for you. I apologize that you were still in the waiting room for most of this.